ngā mihi nui. Thanks everyone for your patience and for Councillor Optiraman for suggesting that flexibility there. I think it created a more fulsome discussion. Righto, we are on to Q&As. Lexi or Mandy, would you like to start us off with any opening remarks? Or?
Kia ora koutou. Thank you very much for the opportunity to talk to you today and looking forward to your questions. On Thursday, we are bringing a paper to the committee and that paper talks a little bit about the transition that we've been undertaking for the advisory group model as requested by the committee on November 28. We have made good progress, and the next step in that progress is to bring the terms of reference for your consideration. So we will be seeking approval for the terms of reference for 5 identity-based groups and a combined strategic panel, which we've talked a little bit about already. Previous decisions that were made by the committee that are relevant is in October 23, you agreed to explore new advisory group options. In April 24, confirmed the need to integrate diverse voices and you established the Ethnic Communities Advisory Group. And November 24, adopted the hybrid model. So why was that considered and that decision made by the committee? So there's been a number of reviews of the advisory groups, and the latest one also highlighted persistent issues with the advisory group model. Some of the key issues were unclear roles and expectations of both members and council staff in the committee. Poor timing in decision making, so not aligning with strategic decisions that the council needed to make, so getting good input into some of those strategic decisions at the front end of the process. Inconsistent effectiveness. Often feedback was both from the advisory group and staff that potentially the right things weren't going to the advisory groups at the right times. And ultimately that the current model was no longer fit for purpose. The hybrid model includes key elements that were adopted by the committee in November, and those key elements were included the number of groups, the names of the groups, and the identity areas of the advisory groups. So the groups are the Disabled Communities Advisory Group, the Ethnic Communities Advisory Group, Pacific Communities Advisory Group, the Takapo Rainbow Communities Advisory Group, and the Rangatahi Youth Communities Advisory Group. All of those groups have 8 members per group, except for the Rangatahi Youth Group, which has 12. The number and frequencies of meetings. So all groups will have 5 to 7 advisory group meetings, except for the Rangatahi Youth Communities Advisory Group, which has up to 10 meetings per year, plus 3 to 4 strategic panel meetings per year. So they're the terms of reference elements that were approved by the committee. There are some other elements within the terms of reference that were open for operational review. So elements from the previous or the current terms of reference of the previous groups, plus areas that required strengthening, identified both through the advisory group review and by some of the groups themselves. Some of those areas were the description and purpose of the advisory groups, expectations of members, submissions of individuals and groups, conflict resolution guidelines, and key roles and responsibilities of the groups. I want to thank the co-chairs of the advisory groups for inputting into those terms of reference and providing feedback, and where we have been able to, we have taken on that feedback and made changes to the terms of reference. The next steps for us after we have a terms of reference in place would be asking and welcoming all former advisory group members to put in an expression of interest, and they will go for an interview process. We'd have a clear criteria which is based on the new model, plus also looking at lived experience and community connections. At that point, if there was unfilled positions, we would be going out to external recruitment. And all timing going to plan, we would be looking at having the groups welcomed with their inductions in February 26. I now welcome questions on specific aspects of the terms of reference. Thank you.
Thank you. Recognising we don't have much time, I will limit members of the committee to one partai each before we jump back on the list. Councillor Rogers.
Yeah, my question was just around for the Rangatahi Youth Group, why there was a prorated rate and how the prorated rate was calculated.
Thank you. The prorated rate is based on the length of the meeting. So the Rangatahi group have meetings of an hour and a half, whereas the other advisory groups have meetings of 2 hours. So the actual hourly rate is the same. So for example, $90 per meeting for youth, which is $60 for an hour and a half, $60 per hour for an hour and a half, which equates to the same $120 that is provided to the other advisory groups for the 2-hour meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. I had a partai just around cost. So we added $140K into the last long-term plan, kind of encapsulating the transition. Do we have an estimated amount as to like equivalent of one additional member in a group? And it's like, so we could apply a multiplier to that to determine how much money it would be for a group to reach a certain amount?
The budget that has been approved, we have undertaken work in that budget. It covers not only the membership fees, all of the associated facilitation for the strategic panel and additional staff to support the groups. The budget is fully utilised for the current model that has been put in place. So any movement in numbers of members or meeting amounts would require consideration of additional budget required.
Aye. Councillor Pennant.
Thanks. I think it was Diana's point was useful about that the number of members should be between 8 and 12. Are you open to looking at that issue? Thank you. For because this EAG has asked for that.
That's really up to council to look at that. The numbers of the groups and the meetings were all set and adopted at the November 28 meeting. So that's not something that we, as the team that's looking to transition and implement this, that's not something we have looked at, and that's really up to council to decide.
I believe, just Anna here, I believe why it's 8 and not 12 is from the research that Sam did at the time, is that size is more effective. It has been proven to be more effective 8 versus 12 in those sizes of the groups. We also want, through recruitment, to make sure we have better turnout at the meetings. So we want to see all 8 people attend the meetings, and currently we do suffer from poor turnout for many of the groups.
Just supplementary to that, I see the research report is referenced within the paper, but I couldn't find it in the appendices. Would it be possible to pull out that specific bit of research or send some links through?
Absolutely.
Okay.
We'll attend to that.
Councillor Rogers.
Yeah, my other question was also about the $40 per hour, and was that intended to also cover scenarios like a ASL interpreter or NZSL interpreter, sorry?
Yes, so if we require support for accessibility, the model has the ability to cover that. So that's included in the additional elements that would be required.
So that would be above the $40 per hour, or you would only be enabled the $40 per hour?
No, that would be above the $40 per hour.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Councillor Chung.
Thanks very much. I see that one of the questions that, or one of the comments that actually came up from the group was that, again, talking about the numbers and the way that it was going to operate. Is there flexibility in the system that after you, when you come to the review system, you can actually look at all these issues and say that, okay, this didn't work or this did work. So is there flexibility to actually look at changes in it then?
Thanks, Councillor Chang. Yes, there absolutely is. So built into the model is the opportunity for an annual review where we can make tweaks and changes. We would absolutely be looking at that. We'd be monitoring, evaluating and working with advisory groups to see what is working, what's not working, and taking that opportunity when we report annually to bring that to the Council.
Councillor Abdurrahman.
Thank you, Tim, for the hard work. Could you please quickly run me through in the paper what has changed as a result of your engagement with the community, with the advisory groups, and what kind of if their feedback is just reflected in the paper?
There is an attachment of, I believe, 20 pages detailing all of the engagement that we did and the changes that we made because of it.
Correct. So there's a variety of changes. We have detailed that in the document per clause as to what the feedback was, what we've incorporated, what we've been able to change, and if we couldn't change that, the rationale for why that couldn't be changed.
So one of the things that came today very clearly was just one, the number, and the other one was just a yearly review and reviewing every year or maybe 3 years. How, if an amendment has to be moved on Thursday, how supportive the council officers would be or not to be?
From our perspective, obviously, that's your decision. There are a number of implications of an increase in group size that we would alert you to. Predominantly the integrity of the model. There would be budgetary implications. We would need to look at the FTE implications. The numbers on the strategic advisory panel could get quite unruly quite quickly. How many do we have at present?
So at present it would be 44 and would increase to 68 for the strategic panel if we were to increase numbers. And as we've signalled previously, the attendance at some of the groups is pretty low anyway, and so we would be looking to enhance the attendance and make sure that people feel supported to attend rather than increasing the numbers. And yeah, just to Mandy's point, we do have an annual review built into the terms of reference, and so there'll be ample opportunity to assess whether the model is working.
Hi, and I think that's on page 1,686, but I found that the tables there really helpful to inform advice on very specific points. Colleagues, do we have...
Should I follow up?
Well, yeah, I was going to say, are there any further pate, or you can have another one?
Yeah. So in this case, because the strategic one, it's very important, and why it's also important is the numbers game there, because to make any decisions, it's going to be, how even decisions are going to be made when they have an input into anything, if all groups coming together from different angle, how that going to play out? Can you just remind me, refresh my memory, how that's going to work from the previous paper or from the research that you have? How, example, the ethnic advisory groups need can be reflected in that strategy unless majority in that strategic group supported it.
I'll try and answer that to the best of my ability. So coming together at the strategic panel, the point of that is to get understand different perspectives. So to have the opportunity to bring groups together who may have different perspectives, but then to understand those and also understand the trade-offs that councillors are making as they come to decisions. It is complex. We do need to have expert facilitation through that process. So making sure that there are safe spaces for everybody to have their voice heard and also a safe space to understand one another. And that's one of the reasons that we have said it needs to be really facilitated incredibly well.
Hi, we have a quick Pātai Deputy Mayor phone.
Yeah, just noting in the report that one of the outcomes that we wanted was to build better connections between the advisory group decision makers and our Pauiwi representing mana whenua. So what is the main way you see that the outcome will happen?
That's specifically through the strategic panel, and I think you will have heard some of the groups saying that they were really excited about that opportunity because working in isolation, yes, you can have a view, yes, you will come together and provide advice, but understanding those relationships, working together for the best outcomes for the city is a great goal to have. So bringing all of that group together, the opportunity for the groups to have access to all councillors, all ELT, Pauiwi, in a strategic session where they can come together, appreciate the differences, but also celebrate together the similar issues that they're trying to grapple with from a city perspective.
Hi. Quick final Pātai from Councillor Bennett.
We can ask him tomorrow as well.
Yeah, that would be helpful too. The money is just a little bit of an issue for one of the groups. So we worked out the councillors are paid $54 an hour before tax and the chairs being paid $75, so that's good. But they're doing extra work. So like I had Mr. Lowe on the phone for an hour on Sunday, for example, which he wasn't paid for. So the question is, what are the expectations around extra work on top of the two that they are paid for?
Sorry, Councillor, could you just, on top of the two that they are paid for?
So they'll attend the 2-hour meeting or whatever, but clearly some members are doing work outside those hours. They're not getting paid for that. So my question is, what is the expectation around how much work is done outside of the formal meetings?
So the additional payment that co-chairs are provided is a recognition of some of that extra work that they do have to do, but part of the new model is also being more effective in the work that we're undertaking during meetings as well. So we recognise that often there is a great pull on advisory group members and co-chairs outside of meetings. If we can make the meetings effective, efficient, and really focused in the right areas, we want to have better outcomes for, both out of those meetings and reduce the amount of time that people have to spend outside of that. However, there is recognition in that additional payment that the co-chairs do provide some of that.
Okay, thanks.
Ngā mihi, thank you very much all for your time today. I acknowledge we've gone a little bit over time and really thank everybody for kind of having the grace to make it work. I'll remind members the best way to get information is through the Steph's email so that it can be filtered through efficiently into the right people acknowledging big workloads, so giving a bit more lenience around questions. Thank you.